What's up?
We are live from the 2020 podcast studio, also known as Two Different Houses. Drew, how are we doing on a gloomy Thursday afternoon?
Also known as the dining room table and the guest bedroom.
Exactly.
You know what? We're doing great. Lots to talk about. The draft is getting closer. Playoffs and NBA are coming, and baseball is in full swing. So
Absolutely.
It's a wonderful time of year.
We are going to start off today with the NFL as we always do. Not that much to talk about outside of a huge trade that happened yesterday and then our mock draft 4.0. And then after we get done with the NFL stuff, we're going to move straight into the NBA stuff. Joel Embiid, Luka, NBA award conversations. And then we're going to talk about our first impressions from the opening week of the MLB. So starting off with the Stephon Diggs trade to the Texans. Drew, I feel like we talked about, not to the Texans specifically, but we talked about Stephon Diggs being traded, a couple of times throughout, our 4 or 5 months of doing the podcast. Of he doesn't seem happy, he's not performing. You specifically talking about, I think it means something when someone else's relative or sibling tweets out about him going somewhere else. And now it's happened. The Stephon Diggs going to the Texans. The Bills will receive a 2025 second-round pick, which is Minnesota's second-round pick, which they just recently acquired. And they will also send a 2024 sixth-rounder and a 2025 fifth-rounder to Houston, along with Diggs. Immediate first impressions when you saw the notification, Stephon Diggs to the Texans, what do we think?
I'll be honest. I knew something was coming. A lot of the times when we make these predictions, these predictions aren't what I think, what I want to happen. It's what I think is going to happen based off of what I'm paying attention to. I'm big into the gambling world. I'm big into the betting world. And all of a sudden, these lines started shifting on the Texans trading for T. Higgins. There was a lot of lines that were shifting and prop bets that were popping up. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. The Texans are in talks with the Bengals about T. Higgins. So I dabbled a little bit of money on the T. Higgins thing. I've been all over the betting lines this week because there's an event coming up this weekend that I won't mention on air because you guys will make fun of me for being a wrestling nerd that I've dabbled on, WrestleMania. And I thought it was going to be T. Higgins. So when the notification went off and I saw that it was Stephon Diggs, I was like, oh, wow. It must have fallen apart with Cincinnati. They shifted. I feel like the Texans are the AFC version of the Los Angeles Rams right now. They are going to be involved in every single conversation. They're going to be involved in every little thing they can do to make their team better. And frankly, it's just very exciting. The moves that the Bears have made, the moves that the Texans have made. Let's go with the parity in the NFL. Out with the old. Please, somebody take the Chiefs down out there. And I'm rooting for the Texans to establish themselves as the new terror in the AFC. So let's go, baby.
Yeah. Apparently there's going to be a Texas team that's going to go, be more successful than the Cowboys, unfortunately. Not apparently. That was probably going to happen regardless. I think this is great, right? This is something that everybody talks about. When you have a quarterback for cheap, right, which is usually a quarterback on a rookie deal, it's happened with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Surround these quarterbacks with as much talent as possible, because all of a sudden, when the Texans surprise everybody and they're in the playoffs and CJ Stroud is really, really, really good, you go, oh, yeah, our window's now, not next year, not the year after. It's now. This is our window. We need to surround them with everybody we can, build this team, and we need to go for a Super Bowl today. So I'm wondering if this is too steep of a price, though, because we look at some of the recent trades for wide receivers, and a second-round pick feels a little steep for a guy who's going to be 31. And I believe it's May, June. Before the season starts, he's going to be 31 years old, I believe. Is a second-round pick too much for Stephon Diggs? I know he's a really good receiver, but is it too much? I know some people are asking this question.
I don't know if it's too much. It's kind of glaring in the light of what L'Jarius Sneed just went for recently. Obviously, you got to trade for him and give him a contract. That's always the, caveat when it comes to draft compensation. But I just think you're seeing in the last couple of years, these NFL teams, they're starting to devalue the worth of their picks when it comes to getting known assets. Obviously, famously, that's why I brought them up earlier. The Rams started to do this with Jalen Ramsey, Matt Stafford, bringing in
Yep.
these guys that they could. Obviously, they won a Super Bowl off of it, and
Yep.
and frankly, it instead of just the Texans saying, "Hey, we arrived a little early. This is awesome. Let's just kind of roll on from here." They're like, "Nope, just like you said, it's time. Let's go rookie contract quarterback. He's balling out. Let's surround him with everything he can." What's the second round? Is there any player in the second round next of the draft that's going to have the impact that Stephon Diggs is going to have? Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. But you know what? Stephon Diggs is going to have an impact. Assuming healthy, let's not do the whole, oh, he might get hurt, he might do this, he might do that. Fine, whatever. Anything could
Yeah.
happen. We all might die tomorrow. But Stephon Diggs, the impact on that team when they're already loaded up with a lot of talent, I love it for them. Just the rich keep getting richer, and the Texans have a massive, massive eyeballs on them right now and what they're going to do next year.
Yeah, so initially I was sitting on the side of no, it's really not too steep of a price because they have him locked up for contract for a couple more years. Not only is it okay, cool, we get him now, but we also get him a couple more years down the line of not having to drum up a contract for this guy where he's playing on it. But then I get the notification across my phone not that long ago that they're giving him an out after this year where he could potentially be a free agent. So that one kind of leaves me head scratching a little bit when you already have him locked up. So I got to look deeper into what the out actually is, if it's a team option or a player option, because I knew before it was more of a team. The team controls them; they can let them go and cut them for relatively cheap after next year. We're gonna have to see what happens with that. I don't think it's too steep of a price. We saw AJ Brown go for a first round pick. He was obviously a lot younger, but a second round pick for Diggs. It's the age old question: do you trade for a guy who is an aging wide receiver, or do you draft a guy like maybe a Brian Thomas Jr. or somebody in the second round like a Ladd or a Troy Franklin, something like that, and go with that? So that's kind of the question. Diggs trade pretty damn good for the Texans, and I'm excited to watch them as this plays out.
What about the flip side though? Like, who's Josh Allen throwing the ball to now? They got Khalil, and that's cool.
Yep.
But unless you're going to draft,
Curtis Samuel. I mean, that's
you're
it.
drafting, AD Mitchell right there. Maybe Brian Thomas has been mocked to them a lot. We'll see where it shakes out here on the mock draft. But
Yeah.
oh boy, um, I I don't quite understand the direction they're going. Maybe they've just decided that him is a distraction and everything. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
But this is a team that when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, and I know he makes a lot of money, you cannot have a down year. You can't just, this is why everybody's criticized the Chargers the last couple of years, because it's like Herbert's in his prime, surround him with talent, let's go. Josh Allen is in his prime. I know he's controversial in terms of his turnovers and everything like that, but every year when you look up, he's in the playoffs.
Yep.
They've taken a big step backwards in just overall talent on this team. And I just wonder kind of what Bills fans are thinking about the direction of the franchise going into next season.
Yeah, honestly, if you look at some of the top quarterbacks in the league, you look at the wide receiver talent that's being surrounded with them, and it's very lackluster for these top guys, right? Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, right? These guys don't have the best wide receiver groups. It's almost like the wide receiver position is getting devalued a little bit, not because of the talent. It's because of the talent that's coming in. It's constant. I mean, how many times have we seen the past 4 or 5 years? It's like, this is one of the best wide receiver classes. This is one of the best wide receiver classes. This is one of the best wide receiver classes every single year. We're seeing it this year. How many wide receivers? I mean, I scouted like 22 wide receivers this year in the top 100 because there's just that many that are that good. It's just, it's supply and demand. And it feels like the amount of really good wide receivers coming in are devaluing a little bit some of the other guys across the league, and it's somehow we're getting bad wide receiver groups in an age of these really good wide receivers. So it's a little strange to me. the Josh Allen cycle's been kind of strange, right? It's like year one, oh, this is a really bad pick. He looked horrible. And then all of a sudden, years 2, 3, 4, 5, now we're looking at Patrick Mahomes ending his season. Those like 3 out of the 4 years that they're in the playoffs, right? Ending them. If Patrick Mahomes doesn't exist right now, are we looking at Josh Allen as a 2-time Super Bowl winner? I mean, is that the difference? Are we looking, or on the flip side, the NFC side, are we looking at the Niners as a 2-time Super Bowl winner? So I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes is the Darth Vader of the NFL, and he's just ending guys, right? He's like MJ, the reason why some of these guys like John Stockton and Karl Malone don't have any NBA rings. He's that flip side version of today. So I think some of the wide receiver group stuff is interesting. I think the Josh Allen conversation, now that we're in a new cycle of Josh Allen of, we've maxed out all of our credit cards. Now we're having to get rid of everything and close the cards and pay them off. We're in a new cycle. I think we might see a little bit more of a down year with the Bills, but you could also say that of the Dolphins too, and the Patriots still aren't good. So who's going to come out and win that division is the real question.
Yeah, I mean, the certain NFL franchises have shown the ability to navigate the cap just by the money that the owners are willing to spend, and it just seems like the Bills are no longer willing to play in that arena, at least for this season.
Yeah.
The NFL keeps making more and more money every year. The revenue sharing is higher than it's ever been, and so maybe the Bills, who have been on the upper limit of spending the past couple of years, just need to maybe they just need a year to kind of reset the books a little bit. But as a fan, when you've gone into the playoffs every year, when you've competed against Mahomes and Lamar Jackson every single year, and you're in the thick of it every single year, I just got to imagine it's kind of tough to see what's going on over there.
Absolutely. I agree. But with so much of the news that's happened this week, Mock Draft 4.0, 2 weeks ago, Drew, we had you doing the even numbers while I did the odd numbers. Now we're going to go ahead and flip the script and see what we come up with this time around. So obviously with the Josh Allen news and some of the unfortunate things that's gone on with Rashee Rice, we might see some of the back end wide receivers flying off the board. It might be a no-brainer instead of being like, oh man, I don't know, they can go a lot of different directions. Now we're about to see how it kind of all shakes out. So if you are watching the Mock Draft 4.0 right now, first things first, you should go check out the 3.0 where we did the odds and the evens flipped. Same thing here. I'm going to have the evens. Drew's going to have the odds. Same situation as before. Drew, if you want one of the even picks, call up. Let's make a deal. Potentially, I'll either accept the call or I'll deny the call. Every single time that we did this 2 weeks ago, we accepted every trade. We picked up the phone. I don't know if I will this time around. We're going to have to see how it shakes out. Drew, Mock Draft 4.0, are you ready to go?
Yep, I'm going to take my full 5 minutes. Is that the first round? 5 minutes to make my decision here?
Yeah. You are on the clock. Number 1 pick, Chicago Bears.
What would it take? I mean, Caleb's only taken one draft visit, right? He's going to Chicago. We can slot him at the number 1 pick officially. I'll draft Caleb Williams. But what do you think it would take to get that pick from them?
People always say it's the phrase a king's ransom. It would have to be the king's ransom from 3 different warring countries. That's what it would take.
Do you think you could do so the 49ers traded 3 first-round picks to get up to 3. So could the Cowboys do 3 first-round picks and Dak and get to number 1? Would the Bears do that? I mean, that's probably the most available high-tier quarterback, right? Because they wouldn't do it for Tua,
Right.
And I don't think anyone else would be on the block there. That draft, could you get him at this point?
Yeah, I don't think you can, just because of the whole purpose of moving away from Justin Fields, not just because of the performance wise, but it's resetting the rookie contract, right? And then if
Right.
you go trade for a guy like Dak, you're not resetting your rookie contract. You're 1 year away, one offseason away from having to
Yep.
sign the guy, so and you're just putting yourself in a cap hole. And I know you have the cap space to maybe make some moves, but the whole point is get Caleb. Hopefully he works out and he's really good. And then now we can go ahead and constantly build around him for the next 4 years. And our Super Bowl window is open right now. But that all depends, obviously, on Caleb. So I don't even know if it's really possible. I know they say they're, everyone says, oh, well, the phone line's always open and we're listening to phone calls. And I don't know how true that is. They might be opening up the phone call, but they might just be pressing mute on one side and laughing, saying, I'm going to
And
listen, but I ain't saying nothing.
even if you don't love Caleb, like let's just
Mm.
say through the draft process they fell in love with Drake May or Jaden Daniels, don't you just take them? Like you don't trade down to second or third. Just take your guy, a la
Yes.
Baker Mayfield from a couple years ago. I know there was a ton of smoke, and then all of a sudden Baker was the number one pick, and the betting odds exploded on draft day that Baker Mayfield was going to go first, and everyone's like, "What the hell? This isn't happening. No one's talked about this." And then he did. I don't foresee that here. So with my first pick, we're going to go ahead and take Caleb Williams.
And with my first pick, which
Don't
is the
mess it up
second
this
overall
time.
pick, I'm not going to mess this up. Now, here's the thing. I was potentially going to go in the way of the Jaden Daniels because of the betting odds and all that stuff. Now I'm going all the way back to the point where I'm drafting Drake May because there's too much smoke surrounding too many players. So when that happens, I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to go back to what it originally was probably going to be. There's too much conversation with too many guys. I'm going back to Drake May, which I think is the far and away better prospect, more than Jaden Daniels. That's who they should be taking, but that's who we're going with here today. The Washington Commanders taking Mr. Drake May out of North Carolina. Now you're on the clock with the New England Patriots. Do you want to mess this one up?
No.
Okay.
I don't think this is the way this is going to go, and I've said this since mock draft 1.0. I'll be able to celebrate myself or make fun of myself. Patriots are going quarterback here. I think they really wanted Drake May to fall to them, but instead they will go ahead and take Jaden Daniels.
If Jaden Daniels is on the roster, I know he's the third overall pick in the draft. Do you play him right away? Because you look at the talent on New England's offensive line, and not only is it just the offensive line, but it's the wide receivers to get open. And you look at his play style as well and the reckless hits that he takes. Do you just sit him for the year because of his play style and because of who's on the team to protect him? Do you just sit him and say, hey, we got Jacoby Brissett for the year. Why don't you go ahead and sit back, relax, take a Patrick Mahomes, and let's get you in next year when we got a little bit more talent and you learn to protect yourself a little bit more? Or do you just play this guy right away?
I'm going to avoid your question by telling you I don't think it falls out this way. And I think the Patriots start Drake May day one. And I think the Washington Commanders, with the support they have, start Jaden Daniels day one. Now, the way this just went and how we did this, I would not start Jaden Daniels day one for the New England Patriots. I would not. I think Drake May, he's a little bit more ready. Obviously, I don't want to hear pro style offense, all this crap that people spew, and then people are either successful or not successful in the NFL. But quite frankly, with the offensive coordinator in Washington and the way they've set that team up, I think they're ready to start their rookie pick right away.
Yeah, that's fair.
You got the fun overall one
here. I think this one is interesting because I think this is where the phone calls could potentially come in. And if the phone calls are rolling in for the Arizona Cardinals, don't pick any of them.
Minnesota's definitely calling, but that's your pick. So
I think you don't pick up the phone. You have, 6 picks in the first 90? Arizona, you made a lot of good moves the past couple of drafts to move pieces around to get, again, 6 picks within the first 90 is incredible. Now you need talent. You need talent right now. You need blue chip prospects. You have 2 first-round picks. You need to take these guys who are going to make a difference on your team, whether it is an immediate impact or it's a year 2 or year 3 impact. You need to take these guys now, okay? Because guess what? By the time you're going to be moving all these picks around, then maybe next year you take the blue chip guys, or maybe the year after you take the blue chip guys, by the time you come roll around, Kyler Murray's not going to be able to scramble around anymore and do the Kyler Murray things because that's what makes him good. You got to start doing it now so these guys can develop or, again, make an impact right now. So with the 4th overall pick, taking Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver out of Ohio State. Now you have the 5th overall pick, and I think this is where the phone calls could be rolling in.
The phone is definitely going. As an even pick, I'll take a phone call from the Broncos here, but I'm pretty dead set on the Vikings here. Vikings are going to give up 11, 23, and a 3rd round pick. And
this year or next year?
This year.
108 is the closest we got to a 3rd.
Is that a 4th? 3rd. Yeah, let's do next year's 3rd then.
Yep, and 5th.
And probably like a 5th or a 6th but we're not going that deep, so it doesn't really matter.
Going to force that one. All right, Minnesota Vikings on the clock now. 5th overall.
JJ McCarthy. Come on, Minnesota fans. I know you're out there. I know you've already been in the comments. Come on, baby. I'll put the betting odds up on the screen right now, guys. That JJ's not going in the 1st round. Yeah, JJ's going top 5. Suck it.
I think this is really interesting because I've seen mock drafts on both ends where it's, we trade up to 3rd, we trade up to 5th, we trade up to 4th, whatever. It doesn't matter. The Minnesota Vikings trade up within the top 5 and they select JJ McCarthy. I've also seen mocks shake out where, JJ McCarthy ends up falling. And I'm like, well, I could see either one. Is JJ McCarthy getting the Will Levis treatment? I don't know. I can't really put a pin in one way or the other. Either one is extremely possible to happen. But I think everybody's, they kind of showed their hand in trading for that the second 1st round pick. And this is what we're doing. We're moving up for this guy. So all we can do is kind of just read between the lines and try to make that selection there.
I think even if you don't trade up here, I'm not sure it makes sense for him to get past the Giants at 6. And then if he does, I don't see how he gets past the Vikings, Broncos, or Raiders 11, 12, 13. So
yeah,
I think he's going high no matter what.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I think he could make sense for the Falcons too. And I know people will be like, "Oh, they just signed Kirk Cousins." Yeah, dude's coming off an Achilles and he's getting up there in his career. So you just signed Kirk because you think you have Super Bowl potential. It wouldn't be that bad to have that type of backup plan. So
yeah, and if you move up to 8th, it's a little bit less of a. I don't think you have to throw in the 3rd 1st round pick for to get up to 8 overall for the Falcons. So it's a little bit less of a steep price. So you're really only giving up 1st round picks this year to move up for 1 pick to get your guy, and you're not sacrificing the future picks on top of that. So really not that bad of a pick or a trade there.
Are you about to get funky?
No, I'm not gonna get weird here. I mean, it depends on who you're asking. I am gonna go wide receiver because his wide receiver room is horrible, but I'm gonna go Rome Odunze.
Yeah, you are getting funky.
I don't think this is funky, man. The meetings that Rome has had with New York have gone extremely well. I think Rome fits better into the offense. Rome fits better into this offense better than Malik Neighbors does. You have too many guys with a weird amount of speed on this team. You need a guy who can be open at the correct time. And I think that's what Rome brings you. He's our wide receiver too. Big believers in Rome. And I know it's not just us. The consensus on Rome is getting higher and higher each day that passes. I think this is a good possibility Rome goes here at 6th. So you have 7th overall to the Tennessee Titans. Where are we going?
I'm on board with him, wide receiver number 2. I just don't think we'll see. I'm so excited for the draft, man, just because we've done so much of this and it's all out there for people to see. Titans are going to go chalk here. They need a tackle. The best tackle on the board is sitting there. Consensus? whatever that word is, best tackle on the board. They're going to go ahead and take Joe Alt, nice and easy.
Yeah, and we've had this discussion about, what's the possibility of a wide receiver going in this position. I think it's still a high possibility. I think Joe Alt is definitely the favorite pick here, but I wouldn't rule out a Rome or Malik Neighbors or whoever's sitting there at 7th overall, because yes, you do have DeAndre Hopkins and you signed Calvin Ridley, and you're hoping Treylon Burks works out as maybe a bigger slot guy. Now that he doesn't have to have all the pressure on him to try to be a 1 or even a 2, bring in one more wide receiver, because DeAndre Hopkins is only under contract for 1 more year and he's aging. So I think that's still a possibility.
I think the Titans honestly would like to move out of that pick if they could, but I just don't see who's trading up for 7. I don't think there's any reason for any team to trade up at that point.
Yeah, and I honestly, there's a couple of places in this draft where you are kind of just, you're happy where you sit at. And I think 7th overall is one of those places where no matter what falls to you, you're really happy with the situation. You're getting potentially a wide receiver 2 or 3, which could be wide receiver 1 in a lot of different drafts, or you're getting tackle 1, right? You're happy with the way it falls because of all the quarterbacks going to be flying off the board, and you go, okay, cool. We don't need that. We need that. We're trying to build our offense a little bit better. I think that's one of those positions you don't really have to move off of. But one of the positions I think you can move off of is here at pick number 8. And I'm not going to go too far back down. The pick that I'm going to be trading to is just a couple of picks back. I'm going to trade with the New York Jets right here. And this isn't going to be anything crazy. We're going to go 10. We're going to go 8. And then we're going to go with because we're only moving up a couple of spots. I'm only going to go a 3rd this year, or sorry, this is a 4th, so I'm actually going to go a 3rd next year. It's 2 spots up. The Falcons are moving a couple spots back, and they're still going to get the guy that they want to get, whether it's the top edge rusher or the top corner, just moving a couple spots back. New York Jets are moving up for a very particular Malik Neighbors sitting on the board right now. I've had the conversation with you about the whole, the Jets are a right now situation. They're not trying to build for the future, particularly. One, Robert Saleh and the GM's jobs are on the line with this year. And Aaron Rodgers is aging. And you want to make sure your Super Bowl window is here and now. And drafting another weapon on the offense is going to give that to you, especially the way you built the offensive line in free agency. I think you're a little bit comfortable now trading up a couple of spots, taking Malik Neighbors, and running on. How do we feel about that?
I think that the Chicago Bears would be pretty disappointed to see that happen, because I think the Chicago Bears would have loved to get Malik Neighbors there, and now you've kind of stumped me here a little bit, which is cool. Boy, I wonder if they get out.
They could, especially they're probably looking for one of those guys to fall, right? And I don't know if they really trade up for any of the guys, because I don't think Atlanta's moving back one spot. I don't think any of these other guys are moving back any. So unless they're going to go try to move up to pick 4 to go grab Marvin Harrison, that'd be funny. But besides that, I think the Bears are at a sit and wait and see how the draft kind of shakes out to see what falls to them.
Yeah, you know what? Let's pair Caleb Williams up with they wanted Malik Neighbors, didn't get him. Let's give him another threat and give him Brock Bowers.
And some people are going to look at this funny and they're like, "Oh, they have Cole Kmet. It's fine." Yes, that's true, but how often are we running out 2 tight end personnel? pretty damn often. And Brock Bowers isn't a guy like Cole Kmet where you're running him in a traditional tight end role. This is a guy that you're going to be setting on like tight end screens on the outside. This is a guy who's going to be an outside threat as well, not just an inside threat. He needs to go to a place that is going to use him and utilize him as a weapon, not just a tight end alone. So I think this is a good fit, and I think that Mr. Caleb Williams would be pretty happy with that. Now we have 10th overall. The Atlanta Falcons move back a couple of spots, and they're still going to get their edge rusher in Dallas Turner going to the Atlanta Falcons out of Alabama. Defense was not very good last year. Even if the Bears take edge rusher, which is a possibility at 9, I think they're still comfortable with either taking a verse, or I also think they're comfortable taking a defensive tackle in Byron Murphy, Jazon Newton, or even you could take one of the corners. You kind of have your pick of the litter of what you want by just moving back a couple of spots, picking up an extra pick next year, or 2, or however the extra picks, essentially extra draft compensation, and then you still get to pick a player that just kind of falls to you.
I'm glad you finally come around on the he's going to be a top 10 pick, top 15 pick, because I know you haven't been a big fan of him.
It's not. It's if we were doing a what would we do draft, it would, that's to me. If that's a what I would do pick, I'm going verse a lot too. If I'm looking for just an edge rusher who's a mechanic, and I'm going Latu. If I think I'm going for a guy who is going to have a long, successful NFL career, and he might not be a double-digit sack guy, but he's going to be a terror in the run, and he's going to have a long career, like a DeMarcus Lawrence, I'm going verse. But that's me. I'm a little bit different.
So I originally was going to take Brock Bowers here for the Chargers, which was kind of the inspiration. But then you kind of scrambled me with the wide receiver not falling to the Bears there, because I think the Bears feel really good about getting a wide receiver at 9.
Yeah.
And since he's no longer available, and we can probably grab one at pick number 23.
Yeah.
I'm going to take our first corner off the board really early here and go with Terrion Arnold to the Los Angeles Chargers.
Okay. Arnold over Quinyon Mitchell, huh?
Purely just what I'm seeing.
Okay. I think that's fair. Let me go ahead and match up both of my perfect. Okay. I've been debating this pick for, when did I text you? Tuesday? I've been debating this pick for 3 days. I've hopped into a mock draft every single day, a couple times a day, and then I get to this pick and I don't know what to do with myself. And I go, you know what? I'll figure it out when I get there, and I swipe up and I leave it alone. Because this is a place that I can get weird in. I can either go an interior defensive lineman, but do I want to pick one at 12? It feels a little bit high and it feels a little bit rich. Do I want to get really weird and go with a quarterback? Do I want to go with a wide receiver? How much do they really need edge rusher or corner is really the question. So, and then the other thing is I'm having trouble trying to find a trade partner that would pick up far enough to go maybe grab an offensive tackle. So I'm having a hard time with this one. So what I've kind of decided to do, spur of the moment, is I am going to go quarterback. And I know it's really, really early for another quarterback to go off of the board. And I've seen it multiple times from multiple podcasts and news networks. I've seen it happen. Now the question is do I go Nix or Penix? You said to me a little while ago, Sean Payton is going to find his guy and draft him. And I am buying into it a little bit further and further, where he goes, I don't really care what the rest of the NFL does. I don't really care what the rest of the NFL thinks. I'm going to do what I want. And I think that he's going with a guy with a cannon of an arm who sits back in the pocket and is probably one of the better, if not the best pocket passer out of the top 5-6 guys. And I'm going to go Michael Penix there at 12 to the Denver Broncos. Again, I know it's early for a lot of people, and it's early for me as well. But that's where I'm going to go ahead and go. And I don't think it's that weird. I've seen a
What
lot.
what what would your second option be if you hadn't gone quarterback? Because I know who I think is going there.
Um, I can either go. I'm honestly would look for a trade partner to trade down out of. I don't know if it's a weird spot. We just talked about how a couple of places they really like the spots that they're sitting, right? Pick number 7 for the Titans because they could just wait and see what falls to them. The Atlanta Falcons kind of get to wait and see what falls to them. But a pick spot that I don't like is here at 12 to the Denver Broncos. So it's
I
a
think
weird
they
spot for me.
take. I think if they sit at 12, they take Latu.
Oh, okay. They just bypass verse. They just go straight to Latu.
Yeah.
Is that just what you're
Raider,
saying currently?
that's just what I think. I mean, um, QB5 is. I think you can get Michael Penix or Bo Nix the second time around in the second round, and it's not that much talent to where you have to worry if you miss out. So, but we'll see. That's the great thing about the draft. Um, Las Vegas Raiders. They are going to go with Quinyon Mitchell. They would have loved to get Arnold. Chargers jumped them, and so they're going to take Quinyon.
I think this might be the pick, even if Arnold's on the board.
How do you guys let Nate Wiggins fall out of the first round? I don't know because he weighs 170 pounds.
Yeah, I think this is probably where it's going, regardless. And it has everything to do with what do the Raiders like? They like long, athletic guys, and Arnold is a little bit longer. His arms are just a tad longer than Mitchell's are, but Mitchell's RAS scores are off the charts. And I think that's what they're going to look at, and they're going to go, damn, that's crazy. That's the guy I want. Who's the fastest guy? That's the guy I want. We see it year after year at the Raiders take some crazy athletic guy, and it doesn't really work out. This time around, though, I'm on board with the Quinyon Mitchell pick. Maybe that's why the pick doesn't happen, though, because we're on board with it.
Look at the tackles falling.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just. The Saints are excited.
Super stoked for this.
Yeah, so you have some of the top guys. I mean, on not just tackles, but you're talking about on big boards. Talisi Fuanga, Troy Fontanu, Olufashanu, even some guys have JC Latham super duper high. So that's where I'm going. I'm going with a tackle in this spot. Now the question is where do I specifically want to go? I'm going with the guy who has the most amount of flexibility, no matter what happens with Ryan Ramczyk, if he's going to be medically cleared and he's not going to retire, or if he is going to play. I'm going to go with the guy who has the most flexibility, right side, left side, or inside. Troy Fautanu out of Washington to the New Orleans Saints is where I'm going to go ahead and step on. Now you do have pick 15 to the Colts, which I think is one of the more interesting spots as well.
I'm just going to go chalk here. We're going to go corner. Okay. And this time I am not going to let him fall out of the first round. I've changed my mind on our boy Wiggins here. So go ahead and slot Nate Wiggins into there. Here's the thing. They paid Kenny Moore. You got to get some help on the outside because slot corners are great, but if you're getting burned on the outside, then it doesn't do you any good. So I think they go corner here. I think they would have loved for Quinyon or Terrion Arnold to fall to them. If he don't, I think they stick corner. There's enough. I think we get 6 that go in the first round. So we'll go Nate Wiggins here, and the Sea Chickens are on the clock.
Yeah, you have a lot of depth at that corner position. It's just like the wide receiver spots. The corner position is becoming more and more valuable, and you got a lot of guys coming out that are really talented this year. Now, this is a spot here where I get I was kind of on board with the interior offensive lineman spots. Man, they would have loved for Troy Fautanu to fall here because they would have loved a guy who could play inside or outside. The thing is doing a little bit more research and listening a little bit more to what's going on. Seattle's GM, they do not pay and they do not value highly in the draft interior offensive linemen historically. So going with a guard or a center at the spot doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I know that we have a lot of talent or a decent amount of talent on the edge rusher position, but I think that we can get a little bit deeper And when you have Leatu Latu and Jared Verse still sitting here, I think you're going to go with one of them. And I'm going to go with Leatu Latu in this spot. So you could go Verse as well. It kind of depends on how your scheme fit is. You already have a guy who fits your scheme like Boye Mafe, and I think Leatu Latu fits in any scheme. I think he's scheme transcendent. I think he could be 3-4 outside linebacker, 3-4 defensive end. I think he's 4-3 defensive end. I think he'd be well versed in many positions. I think that's where Seattle ends up taking him, though. Now you do have 17 to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Imagine the Bengals sitting here at 18 and seeing those two tackles still sitting there on the board, and they would just be freaking out like, oh, we'll take either one. We'll take either one. That's exactly what we need. Jacksonville currently are their most odds-on favorite to pick here at DraftKings is a corner. So we're going to stick there, and we're going to take my man Kool-Aid at 17, and they are going to beef up that defense there, the secondary. I know they signed what's his name? Ronald Darby. But they cut another guy, and their secondary is still a little light, and they've I don't know. Jacksonville Jaguars are interesting to me this year. The Texans are ascending. I think the Jaguars are falling right out of the playoffs and right into like maybe we need to trade Trevor Lawrence territory. So
the implosion that they had last year when they looked really good, they were number one seed at one point. What was it, 6-7 games into the season, almost halfway into the season? They looked really, really good, and then all of a sudden they collapsed. And everybody talks about the Eagles collapsing, but nobody has a real conversation about the Jacksonville Jaguars having that all-time collapse last year too. Again, they were the one seed, they were poised to take it, and they fell flat on their face. So a lot of weird conversations around Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. When we get to all of our predictions, when it gets closer to the season, it's going to be interesting to see how it all falls out, because it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to have to put up all the teams in a spreadsheet and be like, you get a win, so you get a loss, and you get a win, so you get a loss. I'm curious to see how many wins the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to shake out to get, because it's probably not going to look great. Now, looking at the Cincinnati Bengals, just like Drew said, they're jumping for joy. They're super duper stoked. They're excited. And you're going to be looking at Talisi Fuanga and Olu Fashanu. I'm going to take Fashanu here. What are we drafting offensive tackle for? Because it sure as hell isn't to run the ball. It's to protect Joe Burrow. That's the entire point, is we're taking a tackle to protect Joe Burrow. Well, guess what? Olu Fashanu, to me, is the best pass protection tackle in this class. The run blocking is a problem, and I thought maybe he could fix a little bit of that. But when God gives you little hands, historically little hands in the draft, that's probably why you can't run block very well, because you can't get a grip on anybody. So I don't know how much improvement we're going to see. He's going to have to do something there, and it wasn't atrocious, but that pass blocking is the whole reason on why we're taking Olu Fashanu there at 18. You have your favorite team, the LA Rams, at number 19.
The LA Rams will not be taking a tackle because they just invested $600 million on their offensive line. So they are going to replace a hole a massive hole left by future Hall of Famer Aaron Donald. They are going to go defensive tackle, and they are going to go Byron Murphy.
This conversation between Byron Murphy and Jerzon Newton, the back and forth on who's defensive tackle one, I think is interesting, because I don't really see it with Jerzon Newton, but I listen to some. I don't know if you ever listened to the PFF Stock Exchange podcast before. Trevor Sikkema, Connor Rogers, they're pretty good, and they're huge Jerzon Newton guys, massive fans. I mean, they had a What Would I Do mock a couple of weeks ago, and they had like Jerzon Newton going 10, 11, 12, somewhere around that. It was high. It was really high. And Byron Murphy fell into like mid-20s. So it's just interesting to see how these teams value between the two guys.
I think this dude, Jerzon Newton, might just be vanilla ice cream. You know what I mean? Like every high-end restaurant in the world has vanilla ice cream. Like it's great. It's going to do its job. It's going to do everything you need to do. But I think maybe he's just getting overlooked because I'd rather have Fisk than Jerzon Newton, and I may be completely wrong on that. Matter of fact, I like the other dude, Tavondre. And Jerzon Newton, I think just when I watch him, it's just so much consistency that maybe it's just not anything that pops for me. And here I'm going to complain about the guy that's hella consistent. He's probably going to be a really good player in the league, and I'm not trying to say anything bad about him at all. It's just one of those things where I kind of look at it and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, these guys are excited.
They're very excited. Go ahead and bring them up.
The fact that Talisi Fuanga is still on the board is incredible. This is just how the board fell. Talisi Fuanga is like OT top 3 offensive tackles on the board. Dude's incredible. Like fastest get off in the draft. We're not going anywhere else. We're going Talisi Fuanga. We don't got to talk about it too much further than that. We're going to be looking at a team that's probably going to want to run the ball a ton, and he's one of the better run blockers in this draft. I love Talisi Fuanga. I hate that he dropped to 20 because, he's 4 picks away from the Cowboys, and it just the closer it gets, and a guy that you really like comes off the board closer to it just breaks your heart a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that the Steelers are going to be like Amarius Mims, J.C. Latham territory. So if someone like that falls to him, I mean, that's going to be one of those where the pick is in after like 23 seconds. So
yeah, right. The pick was in when Roger Goodell was announcing the pick before. So when they were announcing the Rams pick, Steelers already ran up the card. We do have the Miami Dolphins at pick 21.
The Dolphins are going to go offensive line here, but they are going to go interior offensive line, and they are going to take Mr. JPJ.
It was hysterical to me to have the trade that we ended up having the last mock draft around where the Niners ended up getting picked 20. We had some tomfoolery with Brandon Ayuk going there, and they were like, why? I don't know if I think I sent it to you potentially, or maybe you saw it where the guy where he was freaking out about why would we trade for Brandon Ayuk when we can get a wide receiver in the second round or really good second round wide receiver pickers? Because there's nobody in the draft that's Brandon. I'm sorry. In the second round, there's not a guy in the draft that's Brandon Ayuk. I'm sorry. Brandon Ayuk is a top 10, 15 wide receiver in this league. And you're going to want to take a guy in the second?
That's the whole reason why he's like, maybe I can get out of San Francisco, because he knows how good he is. San Francisco knows how good he is. And the rest of the league is like, if you take his touches and his targets and you just give him the same amount that CeeDee Lamb had last year, he's like all-time great territory for his season last year. It's just, but that's what happens when you have a team that has a million weapons, and that's kind of where you go. So yeah, that was pretty funny. I love the comments section. Dude, like, keep it coming.
The comments was Hockey said, oh, well, we would take JPJ at 20. And so I got curious. First of all, there's Zach Frazier, Christian Mahogany can play center. You have Cedric Van Pran in the draft as well. So you have a lot of guys in the later rounds that can come in and start immediately. Interior offensive linemen, centers are not valued that highly. And you go back and you look historically in the past couple of years on how high these centers are coming off the board. And it's not that high. 20 is a really high pick for a center.
Yep.
So I've seen some people like take a look at 16 to the Seahawks. I mean, that's crazy high for a center. So I don't think some people realize that we're not talking about Jackson Powers Johnson as a generational center. Tyler Linderbaum I would have above JPJ coming out. Creed Humphrey I had coming ahead of him coming out. So there's a couple of these guys that got drafted lower than JPJ, and he's going a little bit higher. So everyone has to pump the brakes a little bit. Go look historically at where these centers are coming off of the board and ask yourself, do I really need to take a guy this high? So, but pick 22 to the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, defensive back. And there's one guy sitting here that has a ton of versatility. And Cooper DeJean. Oh man, that would I think that would get my dad a little bit fired up to go 2 picks ahead of the Cowboys, and I think he'd be pissed. Obviously, my feelings, and I wouldn't be too upset with it. Obviously, I like DeJean quite a bit, but not enough to flip my lid and get a
Can you
little
scroll back
bit
up?
upset.
Just so you know, the Eagles haven't taken a defensive back in the first round since 2002.
Yeah, well, times are changing.
All right, Chargers. Show me edge and show me wide receiver. Do we want to go with Jared Verse or would we want to go with Brian Thomas Jr.?
Yeah, this is a no-brainer Brian Thomas Jr. pick if Jared Verse isn't sitting here, right?
Oh yeah, I mean that's why I said scroll back up. Did we miss Jared Verse? That's why I wanted to see it because I have Brian Thomas Jr. slotted in here. They brought back Khalil Mack. They brought back Joey Bosa.
Yes.
They took a corner. They've focused a lot on let's get my man some help and let's draft Brian Thomas Jr.
Absolutely. I'm tired of Justin Herbert not having any help at this point. Get him something.
Now is Jared Verse a Cowboy?
Dude, this is to me. I really like Jared Verse again. It's
like a Jalen Carter thing, right? Like, wait a minute.
So just some background. A couple of years ago, I had Jermaine Johnson ranked very highly as an edge rusher, and I really liked him. And we got down to that mid-20 point, and he's sitting there, and we didn't take him. And I really wanted him, but he fell and fell and fell and fell. And Jermaine Johnson was a guy who was supposed to go in the teens, and all of a sudden we're in the mid-20s, and or in the late 20s, and he's still sitting there. And I don't know if they're going to go Verse. I think Verse is oh man, I really like Verse. But the problem is we need help on that offensive line. I don't believe in the guys that we have. So for me, I want to go with Amarius Mims over JC Latham. Yes, I know. I do like JC Latham. I do quite a bit, but I have just a tick lower than Amarius Mims. JC Latham is closer to a guard for me. I think JC Latham is a guy who is only a right tackle. And if Terrence Steele, goddamn Terrence Steele, if he can turn it around next year and play fine, I'm comfortable with it, but I don't want to play I'm going to play JC Latham at the left guard. So Tyler Smith kicks out to the left tackle. Tyler Smith was like an all-pro caliber left guard. Keep him there and let's get Amarius Mims and move him over the left-hand side. Guy with a ton of athletic prowess, not a lot of snaps. Hopefully we can develop him to be something great. You have Green Bay on the clock currently at pick 25.
Super interesting pick here for Green Bay because they don't have a ton of holes on the roster. And if the board had fell differently, I think that I would just be going interior offensive line and taking Graham Barton. But because he's sitting there, the Packers are going to take Jared Verse and lock themselves up a future star at a late first round pick, and they're going to love that he fell to them.
I absolutely agree. And in the same conversation as being really excited that guys fall to them, I just talked about how I think JC Latham is closer to a guard than a tackle personally, especially with his size. He's a little bit slower off the kick. I think JC Latham, again, is that guard, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need interior offensive linemen. And that's where I'm going to go. JC Latham, tackle / guard out of Alabama. Now you have pick 27 to the Arizona Cardinals. We took Marvin Harrison Jr., pick number 4. Where are we going next?
They're going to go interior offensive line here. They do need a guard or a center. I think originally I kind of messed around with the idea of Zach Frazier. Oh, he's not even there. So bring up, there you go. Thank you. Originally I was messing around with the idea of Zach Frazier, but I think I'm kind of all in on the Graham Barton train with him being an interior guy. So we're going to go ahead and slot him in there.
Yeah, I think it's a tackle. Graham Barton's like tackle 10 for me. You slide him on the inside, and you're talking about a guy who's probably interior offensive lineman 3 or 4 for me. No, he's probably interior offensive lineman 3 for me, right behind Christian Haynes and JPJ, and then you have Graham Barton sitting right there. And then right after that, you have Zach Frazier. Pick 28. Look at the dude. I feel like a lot of these teams are jumping for joy. And if the Buffalo Bills have AD Mitchell staring them in the face, you got to run that in, dude. I mean, AD is one of my favorite players in the draft, and the more the more stories I hear about AD coming out, I have to go back and look at the film to see some of these stories that I'm hearing. And I don't know if you saw, there's some film out there. I forgot who he was playing, but he ends up running a route, and he knew the play was going to go to the other side of the field, and he runs a route and he loses the defensive back. And, instead of committing to the bit, he goes and looks at the back and just starts talking shit to him right in his face. He's like, "Oh, I beat you off the line." He's like pointing at him while still running down the field. Even though he knows the ball's not coming to him, he just keeps pointing at him, and he's running down the field and he's laughing at him the whole time. AD Mitchell is a superstar in the making in my eyes, and I think the Bills are going to be really excited to have a guy like that after losing Stephon Diggs. Pick 29 to the Detroit Lions, though.
I think that you may see a little AD Mitchell action in Dallas. I have a good feeling on that. You guys don't currently have a wide receiver under contract after next year, so okay.
I would be on this podcast stripping naked and running outside.
The Detroit Lions all of a sudden have a big time need at corner, and so we're going to introduce a player to the first round that has not been seen on the mock draft 1.0, 2.0 over 3.0 going in the first round. And Mr. TJ Tampa, you are going to fill the role that was most recently vacated by the criminal known as Sutton, whatever his name is. I can't remember.
Cam Sutton.
Cam. I was thinking Cortland Sutton. Who is that? Cortland. Is that a wide receiver somewhere?
Yeah, Denver. Damn, it's like soft shade to Cortland Sutton over at Denver.
Sorry, bro.
Oh man, I feel like I haven't seen TJ Tampa in the first round in a while. But it's cool to see him. It's a guy who has a ton of length. He's rangy. He's tall. He's really athletic. He tested pretty well at the combine. I'm interested to see where TJ Tampa goes, because we always see long athletic corners go a little bit higher than they're supposed to go, and he's not supposed to be a first round pick. But again, those late round flyers from picks, I would say 26 to 32, teams start taking guys on potential and athletic and RAS scores, and that you start taking late round flyers on that, because those are the successful teams that want guys to develop in a couple of years, because they know they're going to be back to the playoffs pretty soon, unless you're Dan Campbell and the Lions. So Baltimore Ravens at pick 30. You have a couple of guys. Wide receiver, you could take a really hard look at. Edge rusher position as well. And honestly, where I'm going to go in this position, same place that we went 2 weeks ago. We're going Chop Robinson.
Yeah.
And it has everything to do with how the board fell. If the board falls a little bit differently, we're going wide receiver. Board falls a little bit differently, we're going Graham Barton. But all of a sudden, we had all these offensive linemen on the board and all these wide receivers on the board. And then all of a sudden, they flew off. And now you're sitting there kind of going, well, I guess we'll just take the best player available with a lot of potential. Another guy with the athletic scoring, Chop Robinson.
Well,
worst team in the league, pick 31.
I have to say the fact that I'm not reaching for go ahead and bring up the tackles. The fact that I'm not trying to make Tyler Guyton make sense, or I'm not trying to make Jordan Morgan make sense.
You guys are one of the teams that had a private workout with Jordan Morgan.
Yeah.
It's funny to see how we've the conversation on Tyler Guyton has slowed down and dropped out.
Yeah, no, I was talking about him a lot, and now he's kind of bring up the interiors also. Could we go Zach Frazier here?
I don't think it's a bad pick.
Unfortunately, it's just not the way that we're going to go. We're going to go wide receiver.
Okay.
We're going to go Ladd McConkey.
Oh, damn. Do you know what's funny is I was just thinking in my head right now, I was like, if he doesn't take Ladd here, I'm sneaking Ladd in at 32. He needs to be a first round pick. Yeah, I love it.
Well, now you can put Xavier in.
It's great. that we are looking more and more at a guy who's getting a little bit more recognition. Lad's a really good receiver. Honestly, you look at the guys here: Lad McConkey, A.D. Mitchell, Brian Thomas Jr., and look at the guys who are still left as well. Troy Franklin, you have Xavier Worthy, you have Keon Coleman, Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall. You have all these guys, and out of those guys, outside the top three guys, Lad has the biggest potential to be just successful. Brian Thomas, all those other guys, A.D. Mitchell, have more potential to be really, really good, high-level wide receiver twos or even ones. But Lad, I think, is going to have a long, successful NFL career. I don't think there's a scenario where he isn't successful. So him going to the worst team in the league is pretty unfortunate for him. But Kansas City Chiefs all of a sudden have a glaring wide receiver issue. They already had an issue. Then you mix in the Rashee Rice stuff, which news just came out today, a couple hours ago, that Rashee Rice was driving the car. He was not just in the passenger. He was driving the car that ended up having the we don't have to get into it, but they have a glaring need at wide receiver. And I think where I want to go is I want to go Keon Coleman here.
He's fallen a bit, hasn't he?
A little bit. Now, I may have gone a different direction, like a Troy Franklin. That's interesting. I've never seen this one. Huh. Alrighty. I
What do we
guess they're
get?
trying to
Do we get a grade?
No, I think that's what they're trying to fix is us not getting a grade. I don't know what the deal is of not getting a grade when you do a full first round mock, but I've never gotten one. So the reason why I'm going Keon Coleman here over a guy with speed is because of the Marquise Brown trade, obviously. And I think you want to have the ability to throw it up to a guy, right? You have Travis Kelce. He's getting a little bit older. Travis Kelce is a guy who doesn't even run routes at this point. It's, hey, Travis, go get open. And so you have your short and intermediate field covered. You have your long XZ receiver covered with Marquise Brown. And now you have a guy you can really toss it up to for those 50-50 jump balls because Marquise Brown is not that guy. But Keon Coleman definitely is. So that's my reasoning going into pick 32. All right, Drew, any final thoughts before we move on to our NBA segment?
I mean, it's wild as hell that you took Michael Penix at 12, but
I don't think it's that crazy, dude.
that's all I got. I think that some really good players are going to fall, and I think there's going to be a lot of very excited teams in those teens, and there's just so many 5 quarterbacks in the first round and then 3 wide receivers in the top 10 is really just going to push down a ton of tackle and corner talent and some defensive line talent. I think it's just going to be, for you and me, I think it's going to be very gut-wrenching as these really, really good players that we think really highly of start to fall closer and closer to our team. And, the 49ers only missed J.C. Latham there, or Graham Barton by 2 picks, and, a top-tier tackle almost fell to the Cowboys there. It's just almost gets to the point where if that guy is still on the board at 20 or 21, I mean, Jerry Jones got to get on the phone and move up and just get him, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I'm super excited, and I know it's going to take a while. I know that we're going to be on the stream for a while with the first round, but I'm just super excited. I mean, I think this is the most comprehensive you and I have ever gotten into it. Just 4 mock drafts now, and it's going to be interesting because I don't know if we want to put a prediction on paper just so we can see which one of us gets closer, but I just feel like we're all over it. So we're either going to have some hate in the comments telling us that we were nowhere close, or maybe some people will be giving us our flowers for being all over this thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, I doubt it, just because nobody gives flowers. You only get the hate when when you don't deserve it.
Listen, y'all can hate us if you want, but just do a thumbs up while you're here. If you want to talk that shit, talk it, but just give us a thumbs up and a share. Matter of fact, send it out to all your homies. Hey, look at these idiots. That's fine. Just keep calling me, attractive men And that's all I got. Who
I think
was it again? I
it's
forget.
Kristaps Porzingis this
Oh,
time around.
Porzingis. Yeah,
Yeah.
Porzingis. So I'm Pat Fryermuth and I'm Kristaps Porzingis now.
Now
So,
we got to get an MLB comparison and we can cover all of our bases, literally. All right.
but
Let's move on to the NBA segment now.
come on, bro. I'm definitely Mike Trout.
Yeah, okay. All right. Starting off at the top, Joel Embiid has returned. How does Joel
Dun, dun,
Embiid's
dun.
return affect the NBA playoffs? Because currently, I believe the Sixers are sitting around. They're sitting around that 8 seed currently, so they're in the play-in right now as we speak. He's been out since January 30th with a left meniscus injury, entering Monday. So obviously, this is a couple of days ago. Philly was 8th in the East, 2 games behind the 6-seeded Pacers and a game and a half behind the Miami Heat, and then just 4 games ahead of the Bulls, who are 9th. So they're pretty solidified there. So they're not really going to drop anywhere below that. At least they shouldn't, unless they just have a crazy collapse all of a sudden. Obviously, the seeds 7 through 10 in the NBA playoffs are going to be playing in the play-in. When Embiid got injured, the 76ers were 29 and 17th and 5th place in the East, with them sideline. Philadelphia went 11 and 18 and slipped into the play-on spot. I mean, you saw it day by day, week by week, just Sixers just dropping. And now all of a sudden we have a little bit of life and a little bit of excitement in the East. Now you're looking at me like, do you want to be the Bucks, who look not great right now, who just lost to the Wizards and the Grizzlies? Do you want to be the Bucks, who are going to have to play Joel Embiid and go through a 7-round series immediately against a tough opponent? Are you going to want to be the Celtics? I don't think you're going to have any problems with Joel Embiid. No issues. But do you really want to be the Bucks at this point? Face Joel Embiid in the playoffs, plays the 76ers at this point. How much does he really affect the playoffs this year coming back?
I'm going to tell you this may be controversial, but I think it's a little too late for the Sixers here.
Mm.
Joel Embiid has always been a bigger guy, and with a knee injury, I can't imagine he's in the best shape. I don't think he's going to be able to
Did
carry
you
the
watch that
load.
game?
Huh?
Did you watch that game against the Thunder?
I did not know.
Dude, like 5 minutes in, he's winded.
Yeah,
Like
I
he's
yeah.
very, very winded
But
immediately.
you're a big man and you have a knee injury. It's not even anything against him. It's just impossible. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like if he breaks his hand, he can still sprint. He can do everything. You know, you're coming back
absolutely.
from a lower body injury. You're banging down in the post. You don't trust your knee. I went through a massive knee injury myself, and it never got quite right. You know, I used to be able to dunk off of 2 feet like it was nothing, and now I also got fat too, but you know what I mean? Like it just same with Joel Embiid. It's just going to be a little too late, and that team offensively and everything they do completely changes when he's on the court,
Yeah,
and him not being able to have that ability. This isn't 15 games to the playoffs. This isn't 20 games to the playoffs. This is like 5 to 7 games to the playoffs. You're in
yep.
the play-in. It's win or go home, and I think it's a little too late. The Bucks do look like trash. I'm going to put that out there. They do look awful, but at the end of the day, you have prime Giannis, and
Yeah.
that counts for more than Embiid coming off an injury.
Yeah,
And
the
that's not
Bucks
even
are
to factor in Dame.
and the Bucks are 15 and 15 since the Doc Rivers hiring, which was just fantastic. Just love that so much. Um, when Joel Embiid played his very first game, like I said, he was pretty winded after just like 5 minutes of play, which again, you're trying to get back into NBA basketball. You can do all the drills that you want, you can do all the scrimmages that you want, but as soon as you're on the court and you're actually playing, it's going to be a little bit different and you're going to be a little bit more gassed. He got to the free throw line 12 times, free throw merchant. He made all 12 of them. He had 24 points. So,
Does the
um,
record really matter though with the Bucks? Like it's the Bucks. Like does the record really matter? We know the regular season the NBA doesn't matter. That's why nobody watches. You just have to get in. Like
the
it
defense has been concerning all year, and losing some of their pieces, their defensive pieces over the offseason has been concerning. And when they lost to the Grizzlies, some people are going to point out, obviously Bucks fans, well, we didn't have Dame. Congratulations. Well, you also fucking gave up a shit ton of points to the goddamn Grizzlies. Dame
when
doesn't help you on the defensive end, dog. That's not going to fix anything for you.
When you look at the West, like, does the Warriors record really matter to you? Like, they're the Warriors. You know what I mean? Like, it's still Kevin Durant on the Suns.
Yeah.
Like, if you're betting on it, when you're looking at this young team like the Oklahoma City Thunder who've never been there before, the Minnesota Timberwolves have never been there before, potentially being, matched up with the Warriors, matched up with the Lakers, matched up with the Suns.
Mm.
Like even the Kings last year were far and away, in my opinion, come after me, Warriors fans, the better team. It took a 50-point outburst from Steph in Game 7, and our two best players had broken hands. Like, it's just Fox had a broken hand, Sabonis had his thumb thing. It's just, to me, I don't think the regular season matters much in the NBA. It matters for seeding, but when playoffs come around, I'm trusting the Bucks and I'm trusting Giannis 1,000 times over. I'm trusting an out of shape Joel Embiid. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong there. I think regardless, it's gonna make for some good content and some good basketball to actually watch. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see how it all shakes out. Again, I want life in the East. As much as I would love Boston just to run through everyone, I want, on one hand, I want my cake and eat it too. Okay, I want Boston to run through everyone, but I also want something entertaining on the other side. I want to be able to watch my games, go, okay, cool, sweep whoever the fuck we got, and then let's go ahead and move on and see what the other games are actually in store for. So,
I've
and it's
actually
funny
been
because we get this, and then we get news that Julius Randle is going to be done for the season because of a surgery. So,
I've been saying this a lot to people. Like, it stresses me out that the Kings are in the playoffs because I used to love playoff basketball. And now I have to stress about the damn Kings and if they're going to win or not. And it's irritating to me
right.
because I just want to enjoy NBA basketball, especially the Western Conference. Now, I'm going to go on record here on the podcast. I'm going to let you know when it comes to the NBA Finals, Boston's going to be sitting there unscathed. Unless Tatum breaks his leg and Jaylen Brown blows out his ACL and all sorts of other terrible things happen, Boston's going to be there in the finals. And I think Denver's going to be there in the finals, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I'm just super excited. The parity in the West is really good right now. I think the West is going to be a bloodbath. And I think that the Boston Celtics are going to skip their way to the NBA Finals. Matter of fact, I don't even see Boston getting a game 6 until they get to the finals.
Yeah. And I would agree with that, obviously. Let's go ahead and talk about a team that I do not like at all. Even I'd say at this point right now in time, more than the 76ers, just because of how much they've irritated me. The Mavericks. Absolutely ruining the shot for the Houston Rockets to get in, not only with going on this massive winning streak and then beating them and ending their winning streak, but also then losing to the Warriors the other night. So then it boosts the Warriors up just a little bit further against the Rockets. Like, man, really just fucked up that whole season for Houston. Man, I would not be happy if I was a Houston fan. But the Mavericks won 7 straight before losing to the Warriors. They've won their last 11 out of the last 13 games, moving up to the 5th seed in the Western Conference. Luke has been on fire, right? Averaging 31.3 points, 10.4 rebounds, and 9.3 assists during their streak. The Mavs have been one of the most dominant NBA teams since the since the trade deadline, going 16-7 up to this point. They're moving out of the play-in and just 2 games back from the Clippers in the 4th seed. So all of a sudden we look at Mavs in the play-in, and all of a sudden now they might have home court advantage in that first round. And depending on who wins, obviously, in moving down the line in the playoffs. Now, super duper frustrating that point. But with this winning streak, does this put Luka into a real MVP conversation? Because I think the award's just been handed off to Nikola Jokic at this point. We're going to have an NBA awards conversation and what I actually think and what you actually think. But are we actually going to have a real conversation about it? Or is this like, okay, yeah, I get it? Because the whole conversation before was, well, that's great that Luka puts up the numbers. I don't really give a shit. They're the 10 seed, they're the 9 seed, they're the 8 seed. They're not winning enough games to put him into that conversation. Now with the potential of them to get forced into the 4th seed, now can we have a conversation? Or is it still like, hey man, it's just a little bit too late. The narrative's not there anymore.
No, I think it's definitely on its way. Kyrie's been really good, but defensively, that team, they're one of the top defensive teams coming out of the All-Star break. The Kings just played them back-to-back, lost both games, which kind of catapulted the Kings into the play-in that they're trying to climb themselves out of. And I watched it firsthand. They played really well. It's it was really good defense because the Kings have an amazing offense, and it's really, you still got me.
Yeah.
It's really hard to slow them down. They slowed them down 2 games in a row. So I definitely think that the conversation is back open. Now, recency bias, I think, is a big thing. I think it actually helps
Yeah.
Luka that he's coming on strong at the end of the year. So I definitely think when it comes to the NBA MVP award, Luka is trending up for sure. I don't think it's too little too late like we talked about with Joel Embiid and the Sixers. I think it's actually just at the right time to put your
Hmm.
stamp on the league, especially to catapult yourself from the 10th, ninth, 8, 7, 6, 5. Now we're like, oh my gosh, can they get to 4? The the West, man, the Mavericks schedule, the Suns schedule, just it's just a bloodbath right now. It's going to be the best basketball of the season in the last 8, 9 games of the season. The
Yeah.
Kings the Kings are, matter of fact, I think the Kings are playing the Knicks right now. They play some suckers from Boston tomorrow. Like, you got to beat the Knicks, you got to beat Boston, and the only bad team they play the rest of the season is Portland. They just playoff team. It's ruthless right now for basically the 4th seed down to 10 right now in the West. It's just really exciting. Every single night, this is what the NBA wants. This is what the NBA needs. Every single night, there's some big thing going on in the NBA in terms of seeding, and that's what makes it exciting, and that's why that's what people are going to watch.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We talked about it very recently, how the West is, like you said, it is that bloodbath, right? And everybody's like within a game, a half game, couple of games within each other. And then all of a sudden, the schedule strength is all of a sudden the most important thing coming down to the last 15 games. And it's really, really made a difference. Just completely reseeding a ton of teams. And the West is going to be fun regardless of how the seeding ends up shaking out. It's going to be exciting. Moving on to the Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton's struggles as of late have been a little bit concerning. How do we feel about Tyrese Halliburton since the All-Star break, really, kind of since his injury, but since the All-Star break, since that's kind of the mile marker? How do we feel about that? And then how has the Pascal Siakam trade moved this team? Because personally, their struggles of late is incredibly concerning. We look at the month of March, he shot 27.7 from 3. And the later that we got into the month, he got a little bit better. Looked like he was a little bit more comfortable shooting off of off balance and doing these crazy one-legged threes. He just didn't look comfortable doing in middle of February and beginning of March. He looks a little bit more comfortable now, but I mean, beginning of March, we're looking at 0 for 6, 0 for 6, 1 for 9, 1 for 8. I mean, it was really bad there for a minute. I mean, he was shooting 17% in the middle of March. So he brought it up a little bit. It is definitely concerning. He still gets his assists. He still looks really efficient. His turnover ratio is still good, but it's definitely a concerning thing to look at. And Pascal Siakam has stepped up a little bit. But I talked about this with a couple of people when the trade actually happened. Pascal Siakam does not help your team defensively, to a team that is allowing 120 points per game to NBA teams. So how do you feel about Tyrese Halliburton as of late? And how do you feel about Pascal Siakam looking back on this trade?
I'm gonna make it very simple. I think Pascal Siakam is a good ball player.
Yeah.
Obviously, my team traded away Tyrese Halliburton for Domantas Sabonis, and they made the playoffs last year. They're going to make the playoffs this year. So it's one of those rare win-win trades in the NBA. Even though
Mm-hmm.
everybody thinks that the Pacers fleeced the Kings, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care. You're obviously not watching what Sabonis is doing if you think they fleeced us. But it's very simple with Tyrese. The man is hurt.
You don't. Hey, well, you don't even have to watch it. Just go watch our video. It's
That's
up on
true.
YouTube. Go watch that, and you can see how good he's been. Look at that.
Um, Tyrese is hurt, man, and he's playing to get to that 65 game
Yep,
thing so he can
exactly.
get all NBA awards, so he can get a max contract. Like, he's not at 100% health. He's literally only playing to get the bag, which is fine. That's his prerogative, but it's just hard to
Yeah,
judge the Pacers right now. I don't think they're going to be much of a threat in the playoffs because he's not at full. But you know what? The NBA made this mandate where you have to play 65 games to be eligible for certain awards, and when you have
Yeah.
those awards. I think it's the dumbest shit in the world that awards that are voted on by media is tied to the players' contracts. That's a complete joke, and they need to get rid of that in the next CBA
Yeah.
because being able to sign Tyrese Halliburton to a max contract extension based off of some shit that some guy who lives in New York or Chicago and never watches the Pacers thinks anyway is really stupid. As Domantas Sabonis was not an all-star this year. Again, just dumb. It's absolutely
Yeah.
dumb. But Tyrese is now playing hurt for money, which,
Yep.
hopefully he gets paid and he doesn't get done dirty like Isaiah Thomas did when he played hurt for your Boston Celtics and then they casted him aside. So,
Yep.
you know what? Hopefully Tyrese gets paid.
No, absolutely. It was exciting to watch Tyrese Halliburton, a unique player for for today, right? I mean, the past 2 years we see Trae Young leading the league in assists, but we don't see Trae Young as that guy to lead the league in assists. We don't think of him that way, which is kind of funny. But we see Tyrese Halliburton, and he's almost thought of as like, oh man, he's like a pure pass guard. But then you look at it's like, bro, he's still putting up numbers, man. It's not like he's just this pure passing guy. He's still balling outside of that. So it's super interesting to see Tyrese Halliburton. He's a unique player in my eyes. I hope he can get more healthy for next year. Honestly, whoever they play in the playoffs it's not going to be fun for them in my opinion. So not for the opposite team, it's not going to be fun for the Pacers. I hope they get just kind of swept out, done, and then let him recover at that point. That's what I'm kind of hoping for there.
Oh, speaking of which, let me interrupt the podcast. Shout out to their retirement of Kings legend Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, Kings legend. All right, bro. You know what? Rajon Rondo, okay? Let me just put this out there real quick. I have owned one NBA jersey in my life, and it was a Rondo jersey. Rondo has always been my favorite player, and I'm a Boston Celtics fan. For anyone who, oh, you live in Sacramento, why is he a Kings fan? Why are you a Celtics fan? Listen, my dad wasn't into basketball, and I was gifted a 2K game. And what I like to do in Madden is take a really bad team and rebuild them. Well, guess what? 2K that year was the year after they traded off the entire big three, and Rondo was the only one left, and we got Rajon Rondo, and we got Avery Bradley, and we got Jared Sullinger, and yeah, okay, that's the team that we're working with. So Rajon Rondo's always been my favorite player. Shout out to him. It's always exciting to watch his ball mix. I don't know if you saw the ball mix that the NBA put out recently, but it's always fun stuff watching him.
Rajon Rondo is like one of the
Now,
only players that can stack up to Jason Williams when it comes to just what he could do with the ball. Now
yeah,
there's been some criticism with Rajon Rondo. I think he could have like another 3,000 points scored in the NBA if he'd just taken the wide open layups. But hey, man, he was fun as hell to watch. Even
yep,
going back to, I saw some clips of him in high school the other day. The shit he was doing in high school was just wild. So shout out to him. Great ball player. Enjoy your retirement.
absolutely. Now, from one point guard to another, I mentioned him already. Trae Young. Drew, should the Hawks move on from Trae Young? This conversation has popped up, especially with the Trae Young being out and the recent success of DeJounte Murray kind of coming out of his shell a little bit more. Every time we see Trae Young be out for an extended amount of time, DeJounte Murray takes over the team, and all of a sudden they go on a little bit of a winning streak. And the record is a little bit better with DeJounte, with just DeJounte, than with Trae Young and him on the court at the same time. Atlanta Hawks have won 5 of the last 6 games, including 2 wins over the Boston Celtics. Obviously, how much does that matter to the Celtics? Probably not that much when Jaylen Brown is just laughing at the end of the game and trading jerseys with guys. So probably not that much. Just moving a half game back from the Chicago Bulls into the 9th spot in the Eastern Conference. Again, doing all this with Trae Young being out. Now, they're getting healthy with Trae Young should be coming back relatively soon. Should they move on from Trae Young?
I think you have to look into it. I mean, the Hawks really aren't going anywhere. They're not ready to take the next step. They're a small market team, kind of like the Kings, and you kind of have to trade away big pieces to bring in other pieces. And like we already mentioned, the Kings traded away Tyrese Halliburton and brought in Domantas Sabonis, and it's breathed fresh life into them. There was questions on if De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese could coexist, and so they just eliminated it. Fact of the matter
Yeah.
is the Pacers didn't want De'Aaron or his contract at the time, and trading for Domantas Sabonis is catapulted De'Aaron Fox into NBA All-Team recognition. The same can happen for the Atlanta Hawks. You can trade away Trae Young. You can bring back a different type of player that pairs up with Murray excellently. And they don't have to move on from Trae, but he was polarizing with the 3-point shooting and the 10 feet behind the line stuff when he came into the league. But realistically, we're looking for winning basketball players. And I'm not sure if that's what takes you to the next level. So I think they should look into it because you never know what you can bring back.
Yeah, I mean, so the conversation that some people have had is, can you get the same return that you traded for DeJounte Murray about trading him away? And the answer is probably not, right? You don't see that very often where you trade for a player, you trade a lot of assets and some draft capital, and then you get the same return back. It just does not happen. But you can with Trae Young. I think you absolutely can. A guy who's averaging 26.4 points per game, 10.8 assists, so a ton of assists, and 1.4 steals per game while shooting 37.1 from deep, which is his second career highest, which is something I wanted to see this year, especially at the beginning of the season. He shot 32%, 31%, somewhere around there last year. And it was kind of disappointing to see because that is not a mark that you want to see from a guy who's checking up a lot of threes. This isn't just a guy who's 1 to 2 a game. He's a volume 3-point shooter. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to see a 30, 31, percent out of this guy. 37 is the mark that you want to hit. 38 is his high. 37 is right below that. So he's having a great year, turning it around, shooting from deep, going to a place like the Spurs, maybe, right? The Hawks could get a return like Keldon Johnson, Devontae Graham, 3 first-round picks, couple pick swaps. The Magic need a star, right? You have all these pieces around them. Maybe you trade a couple of those pieces away, Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, Cole Anthony, a couple of first-round picks, and now you have a star on the team along with the pieces that you already have in play with Paolo Banchero and what's his name? Oh, I always forget. They got a big man. There are a couple of big men over there as well. So they're a couple of talented young teams that are looking to get a star and that could afford maybe to trade away. The Spurs, maybe not so much, but the Magic, they're there. They're ready to play and they're ready to compete. Maybe trade away a couple of those role player guys, couple of first round picks, couple of pick swaps, and Franz Wagner. That's right. And you're looking at a completely different team. So I think that you could trade him away, get a lot of good assets back. And I think, again, teams like the Spurs, please, for the love of God, get Wemby some help. And the Magic could benefit from 1 star on the team.
Yeah, I changed my mind. I don't like the idea of Trae going to the Magic, so let's just leave him in Atlanta.
Why is that?
I don't know. That seems like a great move for right. Orlando. We don't need any of that. We're cool with that. I feel like Trae Young ends up a Laker.
Yeah, I feel like it's boring. I don't want that. And I know it's funny because you don't want Trae in Orlando, who plays in the East, so you don't really got to worry about him in the playoffs or nothing. We do, but I don't have to worry about the Lakers. And I'm like, no, I don't want that to happen. It's boring. I'd rather the Magic thing to happen. Yes, I know we'll have to compete against them, but it's cool. It's fun basketball. I think it's a unique position I'm in for a couple different sports. There's so much, I don't know, anger, despisement in the NFL for teams, and I'm like, nope, I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. That sounds stupid. I don't even want to watch that happen. That's dumb. But for like basketball, and then now jumping into baseball, it's kind of excited watching some of these guys play. Texting you, being like, "Yo, Yamamoto is like nasty, bro. This thing's crazy." Like, I'm like, "Oh, cool." Like Mookie Betts is just going insane. He leads the MLB in everything. Cool. So it's cool to watch some of the stuff. The NBA is another place where I dabble in that, but that might also because we're just dominant right now, and it's like, yeah, whatever. Like, it's cool they can get them. It's not going to make a difference to me that much. So that's where I'm sitting. Now,
I wouldn't hate to see LeBron get another one. I'm a big time LeBron fan. It sucks that he's on the Lakers, so I can't root for him like I'd like to, but I think the fact that LeBron was anointed from the jump and he set out and succeeded everything that was ever predicted of him is just an amazing story with literally zero off the court controversy. You can miss me with all the political BS. This is not a political podcast, so we're not going to get into that. But just the dude is the king, and I wouldn't mind seeing him get some actual help. I have this problem where I watch teams play my team and I get opinions of them. Like the 49ers dominated Aaron Donald a lot during his career. So I was always kind of like, about Donald. Domantas Sabonis eats Anthony Davis for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single time. I've literally never seen Anthony Davis be dominant against the Kings. So I always just think he's soft. SAWFT, soft. So getting somebody in there that could help LeBron, like Trae Young or something like that, is exciting to me as opposed to. I know Anthony Davis is a baller. I've seen the stats. I get it. Don't come after me, Anthony Davis fans. He's awesome. But it's just one of those things. So, yeah, I mean, Atlanta should probably move on. I think it's time.
Moving on to the last NBA segment, we have the NBA awards. Most people who are eligible for the awards: MVP, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player. They've already hit that 65 game mark, so we can go ahead and start anointing guys currently. So starting off with the award that everybody loves, the MVP. Who's it go to?
Shy.
Wow. Okay. Make the argument.
I mean, his team is a top 3 team in the NBA. He's career high in things, not just like points. He's career high in field goal percentage. He's career high in free throws attempted. He's career high in basically everything. He's having the best season of his career. His team is having the best season in the history of its team. You might have to fact check me on that, going back to, the old school days with the beard and all that stuff. But they're the next level. They're really good on defense. They're really good on offense. They're younger than the North Carolina college team. Their starting lineup is younger than them. And I just think that Joker, okay, like, let's get some fresh blood in the awards. The NBA is almost demanded to make it Luka or make it Shy, because your stars of yesteryear are fading. LeBron is fading. Kevin Durant is fading. Steph Curry is fading. You need to put new faces in front of the audience to build the next generation of NBA fandom. And so it needs to be Shy or it needs to be Luka. It can't be a retread. We need something new. And I don't care about what the award is supposed to signify. This is about building the game of basketball, and the game has started to shrink and we need to expand it again. And the only way to do that is to create new stars and get new people out in front of the fans. And so I think it's Shy.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go chalk and I'm just gonna say Jokic. I put in a couple of things here because I wasn't sure where, just for complete transparency, for a lot of the stuff that we go over, that Drew and I go over, we don't share a ton of opinions if we know we're going to go over in the podcast that week. So if we have a mock draft that's going to come out today, and we know we're doing mock draft 4.0 by Monday or Tuesday, we're not sending each other mock drafts on what we would do so we can prepare for it. We're just kind of go on the fly. So same thing with these awards. I wasn't sure what we were going to prepare for it, so I did put down SGA stuff, and I did put down Luka stuff as well. For the SGA stuff, I think the argument against Jokic for SGA over Jokic is probably based a lot upon the 4 more points per game that he scores. Obviously, he gets the 2.1 assists per game. Yeah, so looking at stats, stacking up, Jokic is at 26.4, while SGA is at 30.3, 12.3 rebounds for Jokic, while 5.5 for SGA, 9 assists for Jokic, while SGA is at 6.3, and 2.1 assists to Jokic's 1.3, and then they both averaged 0.9 blocks. So that 4 points a game is definitely going to make a difference. But when you look at the field goals per game that they get, so 19.9 field goals per attempted per night is what SGA does. That's 2 more than Jokic. It does make a difference. But the thing is also that defensively, SGA, whether he's on the court or not, the Thunder are a top 4 defense in the league. If Jokic is on the floor, the Nuggets are a top 4 defense. If he's off the floor, they're a top 11 defense. So it makes a difference whether he is on the floor or not. So I get that 2.1 assists is more than Jokic's. I know they average the same amount of blocks, but defensively looking at the team, Jokic makes a difference more than SGA does. And I do like new life and new blood into it. I think that last year is probably Jokic's award. This year should have been probably Joel Embiid's award if he doesn't get hurt. And then maybe we're looking at this a little bit differently. As much as I don't like Joel Embiid, as much as I don't think he should have won MVP last year, he probably should have gotten it this year if he stays healthy. So in my mind, Jokic is the MVP with the team success with him, the differences of how successful that team is on and off the court. I think it's
You
too
know what
much of
though,
a
bro?
difference.
Steve Nash stole 2 MVP awards from the late great Kobe Bryant. So you can miss me
Yeah.
on it needing to make sense. It don't need to make sense. It doesn't. It doesn't need to be
Yeah,
a
sure. Yeah.
statistically based. The Nuggets have been there. Joker has been there, done that, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
etc. What OKC is doing this year is freaking amazing, and let's reward them for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can get with that. And I think that we're going to be looking at very, 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 very soon. An Ant MVP in the next 2-3 years is something that we're going to be looking at too. So another top team in the league, another top young team in the West. I think we're looking at an Anthony Edwards MVP season coming and loading.
And full disclosure on this, he already mentioned it, but I texted Jacob earlier this week and said, "Hey, let's do an NBA awards segment." He's like, "Okay," and that's the only discussions we had on it. The current top 5 favorites for All NBA are Luka, Joker, Shy, Ant, and I think Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're top 5 All NBA, first team All NBA, you're in the MVP conversation. So I'm 1000% with you on Ant Man. Anthony is just
Nasty.
whew, next level. So
Yeah,
agreed.
I remember you and I talking about the Timberwolves a little bit at the beginning of the season. I remember how they looked really good defensively, and I was like, yeah, we'll see. They play us really, really soon, and they ended up playing us. And I still remember just Ant had 5 fouls with like there was still like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and then we went into overtime. Didn't foul again, but took over the game, ended up winning the game for the Timberwolves. And I'm like, dude, they're legit. They are here. And obviously, they kept that up from the beginning to the end. Now, even with Cat being out, he stepped up in a big way with him exiting. Looking at Rookie of the Year, we want to make this simple and move on. Wemby. Yeah.
Wemby.
I think that there was a big discussion for Chet at the beginning of the season. I was more of a Chet guy. Again, the very beginning of the season, I'm like, hey,
You predicted Chet.
you look at Chet and I was like, you look at Chet and you look at the stuff that's that you see him defensively and what he's doing, and he's more efficient. And then Wemby just kept it up, and then he turned it on more and more, and he's getting better and better and better and better. And now you can't deny it. So Wemby definitely gets that one. I think Brandon Miller deserves some recognition too, because a lot of people hated that pick from Charlotte, and he's balled out. So shout out to him, because there's a lot of guys who hated that pick, and you look pretty damn good. Shout out to Scoot too. I think we're going to see a better Scoot Henderson year next year. Point guard's a really hard position to play in the NBA, and a lot of rookie point guards do not work out in their rookie year. So, don't knock him yet, because I think he's going to become a lot better.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out also to Chet. He's had an awesome season. The fact that he's not going to win the award is not any type of negativity on him. Tyreek Evans won the Rookie of the Year award over Steph Curry once upon a time. So 25 and 5 he averaged, by the way.
6 men of the year. I think there's 3 guys who are sitting here that you can have a conversation
No,
on.
there's not. There's only one. It's Malik fucking Monk. He's the 6th man of the year, and I'm not hearing anything else. I don't give a damn that he's hurt. He's the second best player on the Kings, and he's the reason why they were, why they're so good. And the fact that he's going to miss the rest of the season and into the playoffs sucks for us, and it's kind of dampened my entire heart on these playoffs. But it's Malik Monk. I don't want to hear any more shit about anybody else. It's Malik Monk. I don't give a hell. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's probably Malik Monk. I just want to see if I can get you riled up. When you're looking just at February, when you're coming down the stretch, right? February, March is incredibly important. When you're looking at February, 18.2 points per game on 49% shooting in the month of February. And then for the beginning of March, you're looking at 21 points per game on 47% of shooting, which just continued to help him. But then he started to go hot and cold a little bit in March, including an 0 for 11 and a 0-point eyesore against the Magic's
He
defense,
still
and
had
then he
7
injures his
assists that
knee.
game, though. 6
He
assists,
injures his
something like
knee.
that.
He already played 72 games, so he's already eligible for the award. We're good. Yeah, I do think it's Malik Monk. I do think there has to be shout out for a
Sucker.
couple of guys. Naz Reid should get a
Yep,
shout out for
he
sure,
should.
stepping up in a huge way, and he's a big fan favorite. And I also think Norman Powell should get some flowers too. You see how much when Norman Powell went out and he wasn't playing for the Clippers, how much that affected that team more than some of the stars being out. Norman Powell is a huge part of that Clippers team, and when he's not on the court, it makes all the difference in the world. So I think those guys should get some recognition on top of Malik Monk winning it. But yeah, it's probably Malik Monk.
I,
But I'm glad that we could get that out
at,
of you.
at the height of the Six Man a Year award, some of the most feared six men in the world, like in the history of the NBA, was the Jamal Crawford type, where when whoever's starting at the 2 guard that night left and he came on the court, you're like, oh shit, they just got better. Same way for the Kings. I love Kevin Huerter, who is out for the season also. But when Kevin Huerter sits down and Malik Monk comes onto the court and that Kentucky connection starts going crazy, it's just another level out there. So,
Yeah, definitely. All right. Defensive player of the year. Who you got?
do you want me to tell you who's going to win it or who should win it?
Who do you have for defensive player of the year?
I would vote for Wembyana.
Yes. Okay. I wrote this huge long thing for Wemby, and I'm like, man, I hope he says Wemby, man, because I wrote this like long ass thing that takes up half a page for Wemby.
I think the
Dude,
betting favorite
absolutely.
right now is Gobert, but Wembyana has more blocks. He's averaging more blocks than Gobert. Like it's just Gobert is lazy analysis, and I hate that shit because
Yep.
hey, shout out to Rudy Gobert. His ass gets played off the court in the playoffs. They literally bench his ass because he cannot bring to the table what needs to bring. Now, we'll see what they do this year. That's a really good defensive team they got out there, but I'm not giving Gobert the award just because the Minnesota Timberwolves are a great team defensively. Screw that. Wembyana is awesome. Give him
Yes.
Rookie of the Year and give him Defensive Player of the Year. Or
First
just
time
give
for
him
that to ever
Defensive
happen.
Player of the Year and you can give Chet Rookie of the Year. I don't give a crap.
Yep.
But Wembyana deserves it. And again, Gobert, boring. The most significant thing Gobert's done in the past couple of years is touch all the microphones and be the first NBA player to come down with COVID. So that we don't need to celebrate that guy anymore. And I don't,
Yep.
we don't. Let's celebrate Wembyana. Let's celebrate
Yep.
Shy. Not even going to say it. Shy Alexander. You know what I'm saying? Like get these new guys
Yeah.
out there on the billboard. Wembyana, Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, he has a league-leading 223 blocks, which, by the way, that is far and away better than how many Gobert had in one of his Defensive Player of the Years, along with 21 games with at least 5 blocks. 5 blocks. In league history, only 4 rookies had more games with 5 blocks. Manute Bol, David Robinson, Alonzo Mourning, and Shaq. A lot of really good defensive players. But you're also looking at guys who were older as rookies coming in. So Shaq, older, 23. From what we see now, guys coming in super young. Alonzo Mourning, David Robinson was really old coming in as a rookie. Manute Bol was old as shit coming in. So Wemby's 20, 21, and he's doing this. It's kind of ridiculous. Wemby's defensive package also includes more than just being a shot blocker. He ranks 20th in the league in steals, which again, we're talking about far and away better than where Gobert was in one of his Defensive Player of the Years. And it's hard to imagine anybody else leading the league in a category that's not tracked. The category of, oh shit, someone's in the paint, I'm going to run away. How many clips have we seen? Dude's literally running in the paint and Wemby literally just standing with his arms at his side, just staring at him and just rounds in the paint and then passes it off for a 3 instead because Wemby's staring at him. It's insane that the dude could literally stand there, stare at you, arms down, you go, oh shit, I got some space, and put your arms up, and he just all of a sudden puts his hand out and it's on the ball, and you're going, damn, bro, he gets there fast. And it's just this crazy like wingspan you don't see ever. And if depending on how much you value the word of a former Defensive Player of the Year, a certain one said Wemby is definitely Defensive Player of the Year on a certain podcast. The way that he impacts the game, both on the defensive end, whether it's off the ball or on the ball, you drive into the lane, you get a layup, you see Wemby, you just go the other way. Mr. Draymond Green is an advocate for Mr. Victor Wembanyama. So I think Wemby should get it as well. I've been really excited looking. You just look at the stats, you look at the previous winners, you look at what he's done, you look at just playing the games. Wemby affects the court everywhere he's at on a team that's just god awful. And, he affects it. Their defensive rating is 117.2 when he's on the court and 123 when he's off.
Can I change my pick?
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to agree with Draymond Green on anything, so
Okay. Go
I'm
ahead
changing to James Harden.
Oh, all right. Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at the way he jumped at Kawhi, and I think that's clearly.
James Harden is so committed to defense. He's guarding his own players, dog. You can't not tell me that man ain't committed to the defense. James Harden loves the D.
Crazy. It's funny because playing 2K, there's been a couple of times where we're all shifting, we're all moving around trying to create something going on, and I'll come in and I'll cut across under the basket and I come round out to the wing of the three, and all of a sudden someone else is comes across at the same time and we both meet in the middle and the ball gets past. I'm like, oh shit, I'm James Harding you right now. This shit all the time. It's just been a massive joke for the past 2 weeks since it's happened. Most improved player award. I think this one's more interesting than people are making it out to be. Who do you have for most improved player?
I honestly hate this award. I don't think it makes any sense year after year. I couldn't tell you who the favorites are because I didn't do any research on any of this. This is all just off the gut. You know what I would do is if Shai doesn't get the MVP, I would give him most improved. You know who else I would give most improved to? Jalen frickin' Brunson. That dude's a frickin' beast. And he's took the next step. Murray over there in Atlanta, we already talked about him. Most improved to me, I like when it's a role player that goes to stardom or a stardom that goes to superstar. I thought last year De'Aaron Fox could have been most improved player. So it's just one of those things. I don't have too strong of a thought on this, but tell me who it is.
So there's 3 guys who are the odds-on favorites, and 2 of the guys, and I hate the trend that the award's going in, and I think this is why you probably hate it too. The trend of the award is young guys who are hitting their second year, third year, fourth year, and hitting that big improvement we see from a lot of guys who end up hitting stardom. Why should we give it to guys who are just improving year after year? We should give it to guys who have been in the league for a little bit, and then all of a sudden they just blow up randomly, and you're like, that's not supposed to happen. Even if it's not super stardom, even if it's not crazy numbers, they should get solid recognition. And the top 3 right now is Tyrese Maxey's at the 1, Kobe White is at the 2, which is my pick, and Jalen Williams is at the 3, which it's like Jalen Williams is a second-year player, and he's taking a step in the right direction.
White. That dude is killing it. I changed my mind. It's Kobe White. I agree. That's a great pick. That dude. I would love to do a random poll of fans right now. Who can name the team that Kobe White plays for? Right? I'm just gonna throw that out there. Who does Kobe White play for? Because you know what? I didn't really know the name that well. And then the Kings played him, and this dude, I think he dropped 40 on us. And I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, man. His statistical averages have increased this year across the board. 19.7 points, 4.8 rebounds, 5.3 assists, all career best. And then you could say, oh, well, he's playing a ton of minutes. He's almost leading the league in minutes. Congratulations. He also shoots a career high of 45.6% from the floor. The only thing that's dropped a little bit is his free throw percentage at 83.7, which his career high is 84.8. So not that much lower. He's still right there again. Yes, he's playing a ton of minutes for a really bad Bulls team, but he's also stepped up in a big way. He's the second best player on that team right behind DeMar DeRozan. So I think Kobe White should get it. Tyrese Maxey might win it, unfortunately, but Kobe White deserves it in my eyes.
I mean, shout out to Maxey also. Like he's improved really well.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Kobe White should definitely get it. I mean, I'm worried about Caruso. I'm worried about DeRozan. And then all of a sudden this dude was just raining threes on us. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Tired of losing to these piss poor teams. But yeah, shout out to him. He might be an interesting trade target in the offseason. Somebody's got to save him, go get his ass and put him on. I mean, that would – I'll tell you what, I would take him on my team right now. Make him the second. We go Fox, Kobe White, and Sabonis. I'd stack us up against anyone that's not wearing a green shamrock on their chest.
Yeah, Kobe White just signed this year too. He's getting a base salary of $11.1 million
Yeah,
this year. Yeah, so
cheap.
yeah, yeah. Next year he ends up hitting 12 million a year, and
He's
then
like,
he hits
shit,
his
why did I sign? I should have waited.
yeah, right. Yeah, he's gonna be an interesting trade target for a Bulls team that's gonna end up blowing up here in a second, and they should. So, coach of the year. This is a award that is not that interesting to me. So, who's your coach of the year? To me, it's the Thunder's coach. It's probably who it is.
You give it. I mean, I might give it to Minnesota also. I mean,
Yeah, it can
both of
go either
those.
way. One of those teams that wasn't supposed to be this good and is that good. Yeah, it's gonna go to one of those two guys.
Pretty
So, yeah.
standard.
All right, Drew, before we move off of the NBA and move into our very, 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 very first MLB segment, you got anything to say to finish it off? Or are you ready to move on?
Nope, I'm ready to move on. I tried to bring a baseball segment to the podcast just so the viewers can know. Earlier this year, when Shohei Ohtani signed his deal, I wanted to talk about it, but we ran out of time. And so now with the debut of our baseball segment, it's going to be, majorly Dodgers based. So that sucks for me because fuck the Dodgers, right? Oh, hey,
Yeah.
shout out to I'm sorry, guys. I feel bad to say this out loud. Hopefully none of you guys show up in my mentions. I know it sucks for you guys as fans, but it was inevitable. Shout out to the Sacramento Athletics. Oakland A's moving to Sacramento for the next 3 years, playing at Sutter Park, aka Rayleigh Field. This is going to be awesome. And you want to know why, Jacob? Because you and me, we can go see Aaron Judge. We can go see Aaron Judge in Sacramento. That's going to be awesome. We could go see Mike Trout in Sacramento. Like, it's a Wednesday or Thursday night. Not much is going on. Let's go see the Stars play in Sacramento because it's 10 minutes from, not really. It's more like half an hour. Who's kidding who? I live way out in the boonies. But the Oakland A's moving to Sacramento for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
After
Absolutely.
this season, obviously.
Yeah, I thought the move was gonna happen this year, and I was like, man, did that happen? So first thing I was doing, I was looking up A's games, and I'm like, wait, no, they're still playing Oakland. I'm like, damn, that sucks. I'm like, because we're about to play the A's in like a week, so I was looking for that.
You
So
can
Drew,
go to the
first,
Coliseum and you could sit hella close for cheap. They're only drawing like 5,000 fans a night, and baseball stadiums hold like 40. So if you want to go to Oakland.
They're playing in the middle of the week, though, and I was already asking Jenna, and she was like, I work this day, and the only day would be the Thursday. And I'm like, well, the Wednesday. And I was like, oh, well, the Wednesday, they play at 11 o'clock, and I'm not calling out of work for a $7 ticket.
My favorite games, honestly, my favorite games are when the Giants play on Wednesdays a lot at like 12:30. So you get up in the morning, get down there, have some lunch, and then go to the game, and then you get back in home in time for dinner and stuff. That's one of my favorite games to go to.
Yeah. So Drew, I guess let's just start it off this way. Full transparency. Drew is going to be the resident MLB expert. I am a fan of the St. Louis Cardinals, he's been out of baseball for a couple of years now. When I say a couple, I mean like 4, 5, 6 years now. I haven't really been following for a while. So jumping back into it for not only the podcast, but just enjoyment of the sport. It's been a lot of fun just in the first week, just watching the good players play, texting you and being like, hey, we play the Padres. Who am I really looking out for this week? I know you guys just played them. So what am I looking for? I know Fernando Tatis and I know Manny Machado, but I'm kind of lost on the rest of it. So it's exciting to watch some of these guys again. I'm in a unique position for baseball where I am watching the Cardinals because that's the team I picked years and years and years ago because I was at a bowling alley and it was the game on and I'm like, yep, that's the team I'm going to pick. Seriously, that's literally all it was. So I'm in a unique position where I get to watch the Cardinals, but I also get to enjoy some of the guys I'm watching because I'm not heart and soul dedicated into it like I am with the Cowboys, and I don't have to be angry about things. So I'm like, oh, we didn't play well. We lost. That sucks. But hey, Mookie Betts is playing crazy, and that dude's really good. Or, hey, some of this pitching from, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is insane. So I can enjoy some of that stuff. So, Drew, let's go and start off with you because really the only thing I can talk about is Cardinals ball, Padres, and the Dodgers this week. What are your first impressions from the first week of the MLB?
Well, shout out to the Cardinals. They got a win today against the Marlins, and I believe
The winless
I
Marlins.
think they're 4-4 on the season now, so they're at 500,
Yeah.
which is much better than the San Francisco Giants records, who just got swept by the Los Angeles Putos. And you know what? I got to tell you, the most obvious thing to come out of the opening week of the season is this. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they reloaded. The Padres, they reloaded. The Giants, they reloaded. The Dodgers spent $1 billion. They reloaded. Seems like nothing of significance happened outside of the NFC West, like it's NFL. Outside of the Western Conference that all those teams play in. Obviously, the Yankees got Juan Soto. But here's the thing. Blake Snell is not pitching yet for the San Francisco Giants. I believe he's going to pitch on Monday. They're talking about, and against the Nationals. The Giants reloaded. The Giants signed a third baseman, Matt Chapman. They went out and got Jung Hoo Lee to play in center field. They added to the rotation. They added. They're supposed to be really good this year. They're supposed to hopefully compete for a wild card and make the playoffs. And the Dodgers kicked their ass. So a week into the season, the Dodgers are legit. I tell
Yeah.
everybody that listens they won a Mickey Mouse championship in 2020. They only won 60 games before they went to the world, the playoffs and won. That was a joke. Nobody cares about your fake World Series, but holy hell, they look legit this year. It's a little weird. They're playing Mookie Betts out of position. He's not a shortstop, but he's killing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Their bullpen has got an eyebrow raised. Obviously, they have the best player in the world who's not pitching this year, so their rotation isn't as strong as it could be. But the damn thing about the Dodgers is they're going to be active all year on waiver claims. They're going to be active all year on the trade market. And holy hell, I don't know if anyone can stop them.
Yeah, talking about the some of the relief pitchers and their closing pitchers too. That's really when the Cardinals could get something going. We couldn't get anything going against Glasnow. We couldn't get anything going against Bobby Miller, who pitched a hell of a game. He looked
Yep.
like a monster out there, right? I think was he only like 24 or something like that? He's super
Yep.
young. I already talked about Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He's looked fantastic, and we really couldn't get a whole lot going against the starting pitchers. Even though we did pull out a win. In one of those games, it ended up costing us a win on the next day because we ended up going through our bullpen mainly because of the rain delay, and we had to pull Lance Lynn and all this stuff. So the Dodgers, look fantastic. Mookie Betts is literally leading the league in everything up to this point right now. So shout out the MLB TikTok because they're fucking hysterical. The responses, whoever they've hired, whatever young kid, whatever 18-year-old they've hired for their marketing strategy, congrats. Now you're playing with some of the guys that that have really funny marketing strategies, along with like the Brooklyn Nets have a really good social media manager. So looking at the Cardinals,
you know what's so funny about that is capping back at the Trolls is one thing. Capping back at Trolls, I'm all here for it. But this guy was like, I already loved Major League Baseball, but this season what's going on is making me love it even more. And the guy's like, I didn't ask for your life story. This is the MLB account. He's like, I didn't ask for your life story. And the guy's like, oh, my bad. Like, it's just, that shit's funny. Hey, baseball's got to do something, man. They got to do whatever they can do because they're in a worse place than the NBA is. And baseball's so territorial now. Like, the reason why you don't know anyone that plays for the Marlins or you don't know anyone that plays for the Mariners because they don't do a good job of, how did anyone know when the league when the season kicked off? It kicked off 2 weeks ago in Korea. Did anyone watch those games? The Dodgers were playing, right? One of the biggest scandals in baseball history was unfurling right then and there, right? Did anyone know that how do you start the season on a Thursday? What the hell is that? Like, why not a Friday? Why not a bunch of prime time? It's just a bunch of I don't know. I know that there's a certain family member of us. He's a little crazy and he hates Roger Goodell, who's the best commissioner in the history of any sport. But holy hell, Rob Manfred is terrible. He is literally a trash can. And the fact that, don't make me bring him into the studio like I did Justin Fields. The fact that he's letting John Fisher dick around the Oakland Athletics and their fans when the Las Vegas mayor's like, nah, we don't want him. Everyone in Las Vegas like, no, we don't care about baseball. Oh, we're coming anyway. Oh, now we're going to go play it in a AAA ballpark for 3 years. I'm happy about it. But baseball is just so lost right now. And the Dodgers, hopefully they drive some, draw some eyeballs to the game. And luckily, the Giants don't have to play them till like the end of May. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Looking at the Cardinals, because again, that's really the only thing I can really comment off of. Brendan Donovan looks great. He's leading the team in average, 308 batting average currently. Victor Scott, real young kid. He's playing center field. Looks great defensively. Struggling at bat majorly. I think he's averaging 106, 108, somewhere around that ballpark. 120. He doesn't look great at the plate. Wilson Contreras, from what I've heard, he struggled greatly last year defensively at the catcher position, but right now he looks fantastic. He's keeping everything in front of him. He's leading the team in home runs and slugging percentage. He even had a forced ball on Matsui, the relief pitcher for the Padres, because he had his foot right outside of the box and Matsui was trying to pitch and had a whole situation. It pissed him off, and it was pretty funny. Apparently, he's known for doing some of that too in late games and frustrating guys. Nolan Gorman and Paul Goldschmidt are taking a ton of strikeouts so far. Nolan Gorman's at like 12. Paul Goldschmidt's at like 10. So we got like 22 strikeouts between those two guys alone. Mason Wynn at shortstop looks fantastic. Cannon of an arm. You win Brandon Crawford. Shout out Giants. When Brandon Crawford's out there instead of Mason Wynn, it makes a huge difference defensively and at the plate as well. He's batting 313 with 1 RBI, so he looks pretty damn good as well. So I like watching him a lot because he's a younger guy. I'm getting back into it, so having the younger players and getting invested into them is pretty cool. When it comes to the pitching, I'm not that impressed, I guess. Miles Michaelis had a bounce back game the other night. Kyle Gibson in his debut looked fantastic for the Cardinals. He's been a lifelong Cardinals fan, has been wanting to play in St. Louis apparently a very, very long time. Zach Thompson does not look good, and the only reason he's pitching is because Sonny Gray is out, and I know he was supposed to pitch in Memphis and for the AAA team like 2 days ago. A day ago. So then it got delayed and it's getting moved and he's doing practice games instead, simulated games. So we'll see when Sonny Gray comes back. It should be sometime this month. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table because apparently he is supposed to be pretty damn good. And I'm excited to watch him because right now the starting pitching rotation doesn't look great. I like our relief pitchers and our closers. They look pretty damn good, but some of the pitching is been kind of lackluster. And outside the Dodgers, because you can't really expect much because it's goddamn Dodgers, we lost to the Padres yesterday, and we probably shouldn't have. We left a ton of guys on base, and it was just a little disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, your guys' team is filled with a lot of, like you mentioned, Brandon Crawford, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado. Sonny Gray's fun to watch pitch, so it'll be exciting to get him back. Unfortunately for you guys, your farm system is ranked like 23rd or 24th in the league. Your number one prospect is already up on the opening day roster playing shortstop. So it's just one of those things. Obviously, they made a lot of moves at the deadline last year to restock that farm system. You're probably not too familiar with that yet, which is cool. You'll get there. But they just lack the high ceiling talent.
Yeah.
Normally, when your team sucks, you're excited about somebody coming up. You know what I mean? Like last year, as the Giants were falling out of the playoff race, it was like, oh, we get to watch Kyle Harrison pitch. We get to watch Luciano hit. This is cool. You know, and so it's just one of those things. Baseball is one of those you can really get stuck in purgatory year after year. So hopefully, for the sake of both of us and being able to talk about it on the podcast, they make some moves to get a little more aggressive, and Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado have some bounce back years, and hopefully the Dodgers have to quit playing baseball because they get caught up in a betting scandal or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it's definitely been exciting. Man, we don't play each other in San Francisco for a hot minute, so it'll be a long time before we can go to a game. But
that
when it
weekend
happens,
is my birthday weekend, though, so
beautiful.
Chances are we can make it happen.
Said it was Saturday, right? Is the one you wanted to go to? I think, or Sunday.
I think it's going to be Sunday, man. That's afternoon game. Maybe get out there, a couple brewskis, and enjoy some afternoon baseball.
Beautiful. All right, Drew. Before we end it off, we got to 3 different sports in 2 hours.
You want to talk about hockey?
No, I'm good. I don't think we could fit anything else.
We would be doing
hockey. We're doing like one segment per sport if we got to another one.
I got listen. We could do golf. I could talk about golf. We could do MMA.
I think
we
I'll end
could
up signing off for golf.
we could definitely do WWE. I'm down to talk about Roman Reigns.
Oh man.
So, The Rock. The Rock is like 67 years old, and he's going to be in 2 matches this weekend. He hasn't wrestled in 10 years. He's going to be in 2 matches. So, chances
Jeez.
are he's going to pop his Achilles and ruin everything within like 5 minutes. But we'll see. I'm here for chaos.
Absolutely. All right, Drew, before we sign off, any last words?
No, the draft needs to hurry up and get here. We've been talking about it. We've been covering it weekly, 2 hours of coverage every week, given our super informed takes. And I'm just very, very excited to see how it shakes out. And it sounds like there's a chance that there could be a lot of chaos, or it can all go chalk. And so I'm here for the live reactions. We're going to be here live to go over it and mostly talk shit to each other about our picks. And, we'll see who is going to be this year's, Christian Watson for us. So
right. Next week, just so you prepare for it, positional rankings, top 5 across the board. So if you need to go back and watch film, because I know I need to go back and watch a couple of the guys that is teetering on the 4, 5, 6, 7 positions, just to make sure that my list is solidified. That's going to be next week.
I'm pretty excited about this because the big board stuff is fun. Top 5 is fun because that doesn't necessarily mean the way that the draft is going to fall. I mean, I think Joe Alt is like top 3 big board guy, top 4 big board guy, and he might fall 8, 9, 10 at this point. So I like doing the rankings. I think, unfortunately, with the conversations we've had, we're going to be in a lockstep on a lot of it. But I think you might be surprised on some of my 4th and 5th round guys, especially at the skill position. So it'll be excited to get that onto film. Did you say film? Onto video as proof.
Video.
That way I can hold it over your head 3 years from now when the guy that I said was 3 is balling out. The guy you said he was 5. So.
All right, man. Smith. Well, okay, fuck off. All right. That's a great way to fucking end it. All right, you guys, if you stuck around to the end, really do appreciate it. Stick around till next week so Drew can fuck all the way off. Fucking dickhead. Besides that, appreciate you guys and see ya.
Peace.